So my name is Shanna Simpson. My friends call me Shanna Banana. I work at the Topeka Zoo and Conservation Center in Topeka, Kansas.
Hello, I'm John Rossi. I'm a touring drummer with a passion for animal conservation. When I'm on the road, I spend as much time as possible visiting zoos, aquariums, and conservation organizations. Now, I want to share those places with you. I'll be talking to keepers, vets, conservationists, anyone who can help me in my mission of connecting my people to animals through their people. Join me on my Rossifari. Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome to a very sweet episode of the Rossifari podcast. Now, why do I say it's sweet? Well, because there's a surprise that happens in the middle of it. But I'm not going to give it away. Instead, I'm going to make you wait to get there and hear it. But I'm pretty proud of this one, not gonna lie. Today I am talking to Shanna Simpson, and Shanna and I go way back a couple years now, and just a really interesting, unique person at the Topeka Zoo, real big heart for safety at zoos, and someone who is unabashedly willing to talk honestly about all of their thoughts and feelings. We have a lot of fun in this one, and I'm excited to share this episode with you. Some of you may recognize the name because Shanna was actually on the podcast back when I did my special episode about Lolita or Toki, the killer whale, and that was all very serious and challenging and which is what it had to be. But that's not really who I am, except for when I have to be. And that's certainly not who Shanna is, except for when she has to be. So I'm excited for y'all to get to see the other side of this person. And I'm glad to be able to share her with you. Before we get to that, of course, a couple of things. Make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss any of these episodes or my Friday Zoo News episodes. Make sure you're following along on the socials at Rossifari, on TikTok at Rossifari Pod, and don't forget that you can support the podcast for as little as $3 a month by going to patreon.com/Rossifari. So with all of that said, here's my interview with Shanna Simpson from the Topeka Zoo.
I'm the animal curator. That's my official title.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Very cool. And you have been on before when we talked about Toki, Lolita, that whole mess. Yes. And it was very serious and no fun at all.
It was not fun. No, it was awful.
It was a really good, really important episode that a lot and listened to, but I don't think we laughed once.
You know, and I love doing interviews and I love talking to you. And
we're buds.
We're BFFs. But that subject matter was really hard. That was a real rough, couple years for that facility and those animals. And so, I'm glad to be doing a part of your podcast that's maybe a little bit more upbeat.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Depends on what you ask me.
I'm so excited to have you back on. And we have actually now officially hung out in person.
Yes.
And it's one of my favorite stories of what has happened with Rossifari and traveling and stuff. So I knew that that your zoo was out there. And kind of in the area I was going to be in. But the way that my interview schedules worked out, there was no way for me to get there during any of the days. And then Zoe and I realized we were driving past the Topeka Zoo. Like literally, it was like a 3-minute detour to get there.
Yes. Yeah, right off the highway.
On a night when you guys were having a wine event. I don't remember the name of it, but there was wine and there were animals. Yes, roar and pour. I love it.
Yes.
And so we stopped and I messaged you out of the blue and I was like, what are the odds that you're still around? And we spent the whole night hanging out.
Yes.
And you introduced me to animals and people and even at the end pawned me off on the gentleman who works with insects. And I got all those great memories of meeting and getting to hold all these amazing insects. What an incredible night. And it wasn't even supposed to happen.
No, it was completely unplanned, completely impromptu, but it was so perfect because at an event like that, the animal staff, we're just basically doing behind the scenes tours or trainer talks or enrichments. And so there's a lot of lag time. And so I was literally just scrolling on my phone and I was like, oh, I have an Instagram message. That's weird. And then, yeah, it was you. And I was like, holy crap, he's here. Let's go.
It was so much fun. And we hung out with elephants and tigers. And what a trip, man. What an experience.
So cool. I know. It was you were a Topeka super fan there for a night. So it was fun.
Definitely. So let's talk about your career and what brought you to Topeka. So tell me, like, when you were a kid, did you always want to be a Topekan zookeeper and go from there?
I can't say when I was a kid that was my life goals, was to live in Kansas. While I do love it here, no, it was not something I thought I'd end up doing, which is so funny. I don't know if anybody does, but so yeah, whenever I was in second grade, we went on a family vacation to SeaWorld in San Antonio, Texas. And, I just have the cliche story of a 80s girl, the Lisa Frank, I was obsessed with dolphins, all the neon fun killer whale stuff. So like, we went to SeaWorld and I saw, the killer whale trainers working with Shamu and the dolphin trainers, jumping off their faces and doing the whole shebang. And I was just like, oh my goodness, this is what I want to do. Looks like the coolest thing ever. I want to work with animals. And so that for me was just this catalyst moment, in my life. And I was 7. So I was born and raised in New Mexico. So my parents are like, Shanna, like, dolphins, we live in New Mexico. So, they were very polite, didn't discourage, but didn't really encourage. They kind of just let me dream. But I turned 16, and I still was like, this is what I'm doing. I am going to work at an aquarium. I still very much was on fire for that. So my parents, it's funny, now they tell me that they were trying to bring me back to reality by doing this, but they sent me to a SeaWorld career camp. They have those camps where you go to SeaWorld and you spend a week and they have like dorms. It's literally a camp.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it was so cool. And so, you have to do fish prep, you got to do clean, they really, submerge you in what it actually takes to be a trainer. Cause in case you don't know this, you're not just swimming and playing with dolphins all day. There's actually a lot of hard work that goes into it. So my parents were like,
I have volunteered at multiple aquariums, including Aquarium of Niagara right now. So I get to do all of the gross stuff without any of the fun stuff. So I'm very aware.
Very in tune with that. So my parents did not think I was in tune with that in any way, shape, or form. So they thought, Shanna's going to have to do fish prep and get down and dirty, and she ain't going to want to do this anymore. And then she could do something normal like a teacher or a nurse. So I did go to that career camp and I was just like on fire even more. Like I did not care about how dirty, gross, sweaty, hot. I did not care. Loved it. So it came back even more on fire for it. So my parents are wonderful. They just were like, okay, let's see what we can do to do this. So I went to college. I played sports in college. I played volleyball and golf in college and, was a collegiate athlete. So that formed a lot of my discipline, and my work ethic. I majored in psychology and zoology and I got a job at the Miami Seaquarium literally 2 weeks after I graduated college. So I was really, really lucky. It was a really unfortunate time. My senior year in college, September 11th happened. So the tourist industry, zoos and aquariums were just, absolutely murdered by it. Like people weren't traveling, there wasn't a lot of, people weren't going places. And so it was just a really hard time for that industry. So they let go and laid off a bunch of people. So that was, fall of my senior year. So by the time I graduated, they were hiring like crazy because people were starting to travel again. So if you were normal, and you could swim, they hired you. So
well, then how did you get hired? I know you could swim,
right?
But
I faked being normal so good. So, it's just like, hey, can you talk on a mic? Like, are you comfortable talking in front of people? And can you swim? And I was like, I can do both of those. So I got a job, with minimal experience. It was just really lucky, and just really blessed that I got that opportunity. So I worked at the Miami Aquarium, was a killer whale and dolphin trainer for 8 years out there. Lived the dream. It was amazing. It was a great place to work. Top training departments, in the world. Like we were doing, people were calling us for some of this stuff. We were the first ones to train artificial insemination on an awake female dolphin. So like
wow.
it was, so I was a part of just an incredible team, an incredible program. It was just so unfortunate how far that fell, like several years later with the different companies buying it. But anyway, that's a whole other story. You can go back to our other podcast.
Yes, right, yeah.
To hear about the end of that.
But also, I do think that's an important point that I actually want to pause your story and make to the people listening, which is that, you can't, just because a facility is what it is in any given time period doesn't mean it will stay that way. Just like people change, places change, whatever. And I'm sure that there's at least one person listening right now who heard you say that you started at Miami Aquarium and that it was great and immediately was like, oh no.
Lost all credibility.
Right. Yeah. Which is not the case. It used to have a great reputation. Then by the end, it did not. Yeah. But I think that's really important to understand. And I also think it's really important to understand a lot of people I talk to outside of the industry. When I tell them this, they're surprised, but that, if you worked at a place that was bad when you started, but that was the only place you could start your career or whatever, it doesn't mean that you endorse it or thought it was great or whatever. It only means that, sometimes that's where you got your start. I know a lot of people who work in really great accredited facilities now that got their start in some unaccredited gross place, and they stayed and tried to fix things. Absolutely. And then at some point either realized they couldn't or it got shut down, and then they moved on and are now great keepers, trainers, whatever. So I always 100%. Like to point that out. Yeah.
I love that. Yes, I love that. And it's you said something that I love to talk about and I'm so passionate about is leadership, at these facilities, because, you get in a CEO or a director or a animal care director, these big upper management leaders, and they can just absolutely tank a facility, and then opposite is true too. You get a fantastic leader in and they can take a facility that was really, going downhill and they can rise it up and, and it becomes this incredible facility. So I really do think it comes back to leadership, priorities of leadership. I think that facilities who keep animal welfare as their number one priority, with conservation right there, next door to it, those are the facilities that succeed because people see that, guests see that. Nobody wants to come to a facility that doesn't think they're treating their animals well. Right. So we could do a whole other podcast on leadership at zoos and aquariums. So I'm super passionate about leadership and being a good leader and fostering, zookeepers and new trainers. And anyway, that's a whole other tangent.
No, but that's actually really important. That's something we talk about on here a lot because I also come from that world. In the entertainment side of things, I am a music director and sometimes a director and a leader. And, I have always believed, like I was raised to believe that leadership was super important. I have read book after book about leadership. I am an Eagle Scout and, there are a lot of things that like from being a kid on, I thought leadership was super important. And some of the people I've bonded with the most on here, it's honestly because we talk about leadership a lot.
That's wonderful. I love that. It's something I'm super passionate about, and with my athletic background, you have a team, that has a crap leader, you're going to lose. You're not going to have wins. And so it goes the same thing across every career field and across everything in life. You have to have good leaders who value their employees and who have their priorities right and really are constantly keeping that as the focus. So I think the Seaquarium, unfortunately, whenever I was there, we had an incredible leadership team. They were strict and they were hard, but that was challenging and that was, made us better. And it, they didn't put up anybody's crap and, and I can respect that. And it was, they were like, we're doing whatever it takes for these animals. And they're like, I don't care that you don't feel good. So it was a great leadership team. I had incredible memories when I was there, and the way they treated their animals, the way that we did everything, it was just amazing. And they were not AZA accredited, and they chose not to be AZA accredited, and again, we could go on a whole other podcast about that. And so they just chose not to. It was a lot of money to invest, and there were some things that they wanted to do on their own, and that was their choice. So, and I completely support that. I didn't really so much mind that we weren't accredited. So it was just an incredible time in my life, and I loved working with marine mammals. But then one day I was doing the killer whale show, and you'll love this, Sean. I was doing the killer whale show, and I was actually on the mic that day, because you have the person talking, and then you have the killer whale trainer, you have the dolphin trainer. And I'm looking in the audience like I always do. And I saw this guy, and I was single Pringle, and I was like, oh my goodness, that guy is so good looking, so long story short, him and his friends came up to talk to us after the show to ask us questions about the killer whale. And so long story short, I ended up marrying that guy, and he is my husband to this day, 22 years later. But he is in the Coast Guard. He was an active duty Coast Guard down in Miami, and we got married, had our first baby out there in Miami, and then he got transferred. And, when I married him, I was like, oh, I'm going to be by the beach my whole life. I'm going to be working with dolphin. I'm going to be a dolphin trainer my whole life. This is the dream. I'm literally living what I wanted to whenever I was 7, and no, we got transferred to Topeka, Kansas in the Coast Guard. And I was just like, wait, come again? Like Coast Guard. And geography is something I'm pretty good at. And I was like, Kansas is totally landlocked. What is going on? So so there is a pretty big Coast Guard base here in Topeka, and it's the main pay center and financial center for the United States Coast Guard.
Oh, wow.
So I know, who knew? So he got transferred here, and he was, one of the big wigs in the pay center for the Coast Guard. And so I was like, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom, and just kind of, do my own thing with my kid and not work. And, we'll get transferred from Kansas in 3 years, and I'll just go be a dolphin trainer again. But no, I saw that the zoo was hiring. I took my daughter to this zoo all the time. Like every day we would go to the zoo, and I just was like, this is so great, and I was a big snob though, because I could only see myself working with marine mammals, which I think is such a stigma when you're a dolphin trainer. It's like, and I hate to admit this now, but you just have this aura about you that I'm a dolphin trainer. Like, I'm not going to work with, orangutans and pick up poop. I don't know. It was just kind of this stigma and this kind of thing that I think you have whenever you're on that level. And not that it's higher or anything. I don't want to make it sound like it is. It's totally not. It's exactly the same thing I do here. Honestly, I'm just a lot more wet in Miami than I was here. So anyway, but they were hiring here for a supervisor position. I had enough experience, and I was like, you know what, I could see myself, working with land animals. The zoo is a great zoo. It's a great part of this community. Anyway, so I applied and I got it. So we've lived here. We decided to stay here. He got out of the Coast Guard, and because we love it here so much, and I love my job so much, and he's now working for the federal government here. And I've been here ever since. So it's a wild story. Never in a million years I thought I would end up in Kansas.
Yeah,
but
no,
I love it here.
Not the place that you would expect a trainer to be, but that's awesome. Yeah.
Like, what the heck? It's so weird. But I do. I love it here. It's just simple. There's no traffic. It's a great place to raise your family. It's slower, and this zoo is just, what I love about this zoo is it's just a community zoo. Like, everybody knows us, nobody comes to Topeka on a vacation. It's not. So the people that come to our zoo, they're our community members, and they know us, and it's like a family out here. So it's very unique, and I just love it.
Yeah, the vibes there were immaculate. And like I said, like you introduced me to a lot of people, and it was very everyone knows each other. Everyone was just excited to, it did have that like we showed up to Thanksgiving vibe.
Yeah,
and
right,
you were
exactly.
like, oh yeah, this is Uncle Bob and he likes insects. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yes. All right.
Join our family.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. It was very
so
cool.
True.
Yeah. It was very cool.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love that you found that. Now, you mentioned that you had a daughter and you have since had a second one. And you might be the proudest parent of all the parents who have ever parented.
Oh, wow. I like to think I am.
I feel like I know, especially your older daughter, since you were posting stuff when she was in high school, now she's in college.
Yes.
Aubrey, and then you have Evelyn as well, who now is the star of your Instagram since Aubrey has left and gone to college. And again, I feel like I'm getting to know this person as well. And I find that kind of fascinating, where so many people have such a hard time balancing their work-life balance when they work in a zoological facility.
Absolutely.
But you're out there being the only animal thing you are then is you're a mama bear, right? So can you talk about how you figured out how to balance that and all of that?
That's just the $1 million question, and I see so many people struggling with this, and on Facebook, there's lots of groups, there's like zookeepers with human kids is what it's called. There's zoo creepers, which is a big zookeeper Facebook page. And there's just so many conversations about how the work-life balance, even without kids. I mean, this career field is demanding. It is life altering. It can be life sucking. It can, you just have the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and then you add being, balancing, being married and having children. It's just insane. But looking back and knowing what I've known, because, I was only a stay-at-home mom for 1 year before I got the job here. So I have been a working mom in the animal care career field. My oldest daughter is 19. My youngest is 15. So I think it is so important. And I tell every keeper this, I tell everybody I know or anybody on Facebook, you have to have a life outside of work. And with this career field, you're so passionate about the animals, so passionate about their care and their welfare and training and enrichment and veterinary medicine, blah, 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 blah. The list goes on. But you have to have a work-life balance, and it has to be intentional. And, whenever I interviewed here for this job, I only had one daughter at the time. She was 3. She was 4. Yeah, she was 4. No, she was 3. Anyway, that's irrelevant. But she was little. Okay. I told them in the interview, they were like, do you have any questions for us? Is there anything you would like to ask? And I was just like, I'm going to be upfront with you. My number one priority in my life is my family. And I will absolutely do my best at my job at all times. But there will be times where my family has to take priority. And I only want to work at a facility that is going to understand that and is going to support me in that, and I remember telling my husband after that interview, I was like, my interview was great. And then I dropped that bomb because how many zoos and aquariums, you employees typically, especially back then, you are on call all the time. You need to do what I tell you. And if there is an elephant that's not feeling well, you're staying. I don't care if your kid is sick. That was kind of the mentality. And I think it unfortunately still is in a lot of facilities. But I was straight up with my boss and straight up with the director at the time. And they were, whenever they offered me the job, they were like, we get it. We're parents. My director was a dad. My boss was a mom, or is a mom, I should say was. They are parents. So it was just this zoo was absolutely, and still is, so supportive of being a parent. And I think that is one of the top reasons of why I have been so successful is this zoo. Not only that, but I have a partner, husband, who is actively involved in my kids' lives. And they he supports me as a working mom, like, hey, babe, I have to stay to work late because, and we have this running joke that whenever I text him or call him, then I'm going to be like, he's like, yeah, I know a monkey got a hold of a Frisbee and stuck it up its butt and you have to stay at work. Like we have this like running joke. He always says something extreme happened and he's like, yeah, sounds good. Let me know, when to be home, whatever. So like my husband is so supportive. And I know I've just been so blessed with, a supportive management, a supportive, partner, husband that is actively involved, and so I think that is the recipe of success. And so, if I was a single parent, man, I don't know, John, I don't think I could have done it. It's nothing that I've done, and I'm a person of faith. I do believe that God has blessed me with all these amazing things in life. And I think that's the recipe for success. And I don't know how to tell people how to get that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's so challenging. So.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that's worked out for you. And it's worked out extra because your older daughter, your eldest daughter, I can't call a 19-year-old older. I feel 3 new gray hairs just popped in my head when you said 19. But
I know.
Aubrey is taking on your career path. And so that was for those listening, I almost feel bad, but Shanna and I have talked about doing an episode for years now. Yeah. But because we are friends and because we stay in touch, I always have this thing in the back of my mind where I'm like, there will come a day when I don't have interviews lined up. And that's when I need to rely on the people that I'm friends with. But that has not happened. The podcast is successful. I don't need to worry about that. It's great. But at the same time, I'm also like, oh, crap. That now means that my friends who should be on the podcast sit and wait because they're my backup. I'm not going to lie. So I'm stopping doing that. But it was when your daughter announced, who, by the way, we are Instagram friends because, again, you share her all the, I feel like I've known this young woman, and watched her successes and seen all the amazing, incredible things from taking on a new sport in high school, to getting engaged, to her college, going to different divisions in school. And like, it's been really cool to watch her journey, right? It's been really cool. Yeah. And now she announced that she is taking on an internship to follow in your footsteps. Yes. And that was when I was like, okay, enough dilly-dallying. I need to have this woman on because I think that's such a cool thing. And I have not met a lot of people in this industry who are like, my parents were keepers. And I think part of that is because there's so much burnout and stuff. Yeah. So what have you done to brainwash your daughter? No, I'm kidding. But what have you done? What do you think it is that has made her want to follow in your footsteps?
Gosh, I don't know. It's just, she's always been so much like me. She tomboy, rough and tumble, play in the mud, fishing, all the things. And this is so cliche, but I think that's a very important quality when you want to work with animals. Yeah. Because my second daughter is not any of that. She is not ever going to work with animals. So like, she's just very bougie and very girly. And so Aubrey, my oldest, she remembers the aquarium in Miami. She remembers seeing the dolphins. She has some memories of that. And so it was just a very magical time in her life, because what kid gets to swim with dolphins? Like, she got to come in the water with me with dolphins and got to do the show with me a few times. She got to come up on the stage during my last killer whale show. So I know, so these memories, these core memories that she has, I think, were just so ingrained. And then with the zoo, and I touched on earlier how the management here is so supportive of moms and of dads. And, Joe, who you mentioned about the insects, our insect curator here, he's a parent, he has 2 kids, just super supportive. But anyway, so, the girls, whenever they're out of school, when, those stupid snow days, whenever you're left scrambling for childcare, you're like, crap, I got to work. I'm covering carnivores today. I can't call in sick. We're short staffed. My boss would be like, bring the girls to work, and so they would come to work with me, especially Aubrey, because Avalon kind of had a daycare, but Aubrey was elementary aged, obviously. And so she would come to work with me, and I would literally find projects for her. Like she would, pick up trash. I would set her down, in this area and say, go pick up trash while I run and check locks for the carnivore team, and just, she was so actively involved in the zoo. She knew all the keepers. She knew my boss. They would take her in, she would help, the commissary keeper chop vegetables, and she would, watch a movie in my boss's office whenever there wasn't anybody, to watch her or whatever. Like, it was just like, I can't stress that enough, how family oriented this zoo is. And so she just loved it. Can I go to the zoo with you? Can I go to the zoo with you? And then when she was finally old enough to work here, actually get paid to be here, she worked, in the concessions in our cafe, and she made burgers and nachos and stuff all summer. And so she's just loves working, like being here. But I do think near and dear to her heart is the dolphins. I think it's that nostalgia, whereas she's so desensitized, hey, do you want to go feed a giraffe? No, I'm good. Like, it's like, she has no idea. They have no idea how lucky they are. But I think the dolphin stuff was so nostalgic for her, and she loves the beach life, the warm weather, all that kind of Florida life. So yeah, she just decided that she wants to pursue a career with dolphins and marine mammals. And she applied to Dolphin Life in Key Largo and got that internship this summer. So she is going down to Key Largo, and it is the neatest thing because, the seaquarium closed down, which is still just breaks my heart to say out loud. But the dolphins, I think there's 5 dolphins. Golly, that might be wrong. 4 or 5 dolphins. I think 5 from the seaquarium were relocated to Dolphin Life. So she is actually going to be working with dolphins that I worked with. And I have a picture with the dolphins that I have a picture with Onyx. Onyx is one of the ones that I worked with the most, and she met Onyx. She has a picture with Onyx when she was 2, and she's going to be working with Onyx at Dolphin Life. It's just this mind-blowing, full circle, just so emotional moment, especially for me. She's like, yeah, that's really cool, whatever. How teenagers are, like, whatever, it's so cool. Don't be cringy, mom. So for me, it's just so emotional and so full circle, like just so proud and so excited and scared too that my daughter's going to be living in Key Largo for the summer.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But no, that's incredible. I mean,
yeah.
what a cool full circle moment,
It is. It's insane. Like, it's crazy.
That's
absolutely
awesome.
crazy.
I love that. That's really cool.
I know.
It's time for interrupting John.
All right, y'all. So I did a thing because I happen to be friends with Aubrey on social media. I decided to reach out to her and get her take on her new upcoming internship and what it means to be meeting and working with some of the dolphins that her mom worked with. Enjoy this little interview.
What's really funny is that she worked at the Miami Seaquarium, and they gave a lot of their dolphins to Dolphin Life Key Largo, which now has the Miami Seaquarium dolphins. And so there's lots of pictures of my mom with the dolphins at Dolphin Life. And now I have an internship at Dolphin Life. And now I'm going to train the dolphins that she trained whenever she was my age. So I was like, I'm going to have to recreate these photos. But she just has such a big personality and such a inspiring personality in the sense that she doesn't care what people think in the best way, but she wants to please people in the best way. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, 100%. I've met the woman.
Oh yeah. Well, I want to come home for Christmas break, and she makes me a list of everything she's going to make me and all my favorite foods. And that's just so attentive and so sweet. Because I've been talking about how Southern food is just like all deep fried chicken, basically. So,
yeah, how are you an athlete in Mississippi? How is that even a thing?
Don't even get me started. But yeah, ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to be like her in like every single way. And so the way I could start was, looking at old photos, and it was seeing her on top of a killer whale or a dolphin. And that is like so cool. So that always intrigued me. And so she sparked like all my interest in animals, and just her support has brought me I mean, to where I am now, and it has supported my interest up until now. And I wouldn't have this internship without her, not because she got it for me, but because the passion and education that she instilled in me because of it. Like my sister, she doesn't show as much interest in the zoo as I do. And so she doesn't take my sister to work. My sister doesn't help her at work or anything like that. But growing up, I showed a lot more interest. And so she was always taking me to work, and she was always having me help out in like commissary with like the diets and stuff. And she just supported everything I loved, which was, it was perfect for me, because I mean, here I am now at a, warm weathered school similar to her, and playing sports and about to have a dolphin internship. So
yeah, that's really special. What, since you've done all that kind of stuff, have you had a lot of like cool, experiences with animals?
Yeah.
What are some of your faves?
I mean, I'm biased, but I love dolphins. So I've gotten, shocker, big shocker. I've gotten to touch and swim with dolphins. I've gotten to see a lot of like veterinary work with the animals at the Topeka Zoo. So I get to see them draw blood for tigers and lions, and I get to see a lot of cool behind the scenes stuff. And I'm really lucky that I get to see that kind of stuff, because having that experience going into an internship is really valuable. Because I mean, you can watch videos and you can listen all you want, but it's hard to teach interaction, Yeah. So being her providing all of that for me, and me getting all of that, has been like really helpful. But I love marine animals the best, obviously, with my Miami Seaquarium shirt.
Yeah, you came ready to go.
I did. I didn't even like think of like this when I was like putting it on though. It was just like a shirt I wear.
That's awesome. No, I really love that. That's really special. I'm curious though. So one of the many things that I know about you from your mother's social media posts is that you are a strong-headed individual, which is, a good thing and sometimes a challenge. And I know that as you were going through your teenage years, everybody has their little bit of rebellion. Did you have that? Were you ever like, nah, screw this, I don't want to be like mom? Or were you always just like, nah, this is my thing?
I did have that. So last year at my last college, I was confused in the sense that I was starting to question everything, in the sense that I'm like, do I really want to be a dolphin trainer? Do I really want to do this? Do I really want to do that? I love writing. I was like, maybe I want to be a writer. Maybe I want to do something like that. And I was questioning it. But then I go to the Kansas City Zoo with my family, and I saw the polar bears and I saw the sea lions, and I just got that like childlike joy and excitement. And like, I was pointing out to my family and the people that were with me, I was like, oh, that's a blah, blah, blah behavior. They're asking me to do this. I was just getting so excited. And I was like, it reminded me like, this is what I want to do. So like, even though I have strayed away in the sense that like, maybe I would like date the wrong guy, or, pick the wrong class because I thought maybe I'd want to be a writer, I always came back to it because of my mom.
That's so cool. And speaking of guys, you recently got engaged, so congratulations.
I did.
Out of the ring. Yay. And I'm curious. So I don't know this dude, obviously, but your life is very much on socials, and he does not seem like the kind of person who grew up, playing with dolphins and who was going to marry a mermaid here. So what has that been like for him and bringing him into that world?
Yeah, he's actually here in the room. Do you want me to?
Heck yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Hey,
what's up, man? How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So what's your name?
I'm Hayden.
Hayden, nice to meet you, man. I'm John.
Yes, sir. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, John.
Yeah, and so
I've heard a lot about you from The Simpsons.
Cool, thank you. I hope good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm curious, knowing that Aubrey is so into all of this zoo stuff, and knowing that her mother is, the queen of that stuff. What was it like for you coming into this family and suddenly having to hear about training and dolphins and elephants and tigers?
Yeah, so it's been a pretty cool experience, because of course when I go and I'm able to visit her parents, we get to go to the zoo and go behind the scenes and see all this stuff, and that's so cool. And so being with Aubrey, I'm not sure if you probably haven't seen this on socials or anything, but I plan to be a nurse.
Oh,
so
nice.
I'll be traveling. I want to travel nurse. So
okay.
we plan to live in the tropical areas. I already wanted to live tropical, so the living situations hasn't been much of a change for me, but I'm super excited to see where dolphin training and what the animals is going to do for Aubrey in her future and what she's going to do for animals. And it also carries over into like training pets, which is really cool. I'm a big duck hunter, and it'll be good if she can train dogs and stuff for that matter, and do stuff like that. I'm also a type 1 diabetic, and they training animals to be service animals is a huge thing. And I think that I personally think we've talked about it a little bit. One of her callings is to train service animals for veterans, people with disabilities, etc. And I think that that's going to be she's set up for success for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for hopping on here. I really appreciate it. Give me back to Aubrey for a second. Nice guy. I love it.
He's awesome.
So
He's
yeah,
good.
I can tell. I, sometimes when I've met people like that, I'm always like, you treat her right. Like I have anything to do with that. But I already know he does, just from knowing your family and knowing how his family treats you and everything. Again, this is so funny. I was saying this before we hit record, but I feel like I've known you forever because you are just, you and your sister are the star of your mom's socials. And it's weird. It's like I'm talking to an old friend catching up, but also we just met, That's awesome. Is there anything else that you want to say about your mom before we get going?
I mean, I'm so lucky to look exactly like her. I'm so lucky to be raised by her culturally, like growing up in the animal environment and in the strong-willed woman environment, voice your mind environment. Like being a strong woman in this day and age is something that is encouraged, but also very frowned upon. And so having my mom being that example and saying, like, don't let them shut you up is huge for me, because I've always, if I see something wrong, I say it. And I feel like I get a lot of change done with that. And that's solely because of my mom.
That's awesome. I love that. Thanks for coming on.
I'm really grateful for her. Yeah, of course.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And now it's back to Mama Bear. Now, I need to be careful, though, because we've been talking about a lot of stuff that's important, but we haven't really talked animals that much. And my audience loves people, but loves animals. So talk to me about some of the animals that you work with now.
Yeah. So my areas are, I like to tell people that any animals that kill and eat people, those are my areas. So I work with the carnivores, which I love the animals that I supervise now. The Topeka Zoo has really grown and really flourished since I've been here the last 15 years. And, our staff has grown. And, I used to be the supervisor of all the animals, but, that was insane. Looking back, too much. So we've split everything up and we have a bigger staff now. And so I supervise the carnivores. I supervise what we call Adventure Trail, which is like our guest interaction area. So the lorikeet aviary, the children's zoo barn, kind of where our guests get to really go in with animals and feed them and interact with it. I'm super passionate about. Obviously, really extroverted, love talking to people. So I get to really impact people every day at my job, which is so fantastic. And then I'm also over the commissary. So I make sure all the animals have food, and the commissary department is running smoothly. And so it's just, I love my job. I love working in here, and I'm just so lucky. So
I need some individual animal info though. Let me tell you. Okay, let's talk about the tiger that I got to meet and hang out with to start with, because that was the coolest. Yes, Thomas. I had never been. I've been up close to tigers. I've got some cool keeper friends, as you know, but I've never actually gotten to go and do something like that before. That was so cool. Mm-hmm.
It was cool. Yeah. So we have actually a really successful tiger program here. We have Sumatran tigers. I'm actually on the tiger husbandry advisory team for the FELA tag. I'm a FELA tag steering committee member. So I'm heavily involved in FELA work, lions, tigers, we have cheetah here. So you name it with felids. That's my area of expertise now. So our tiger program here is incredible. We have a very successful breeding program. We are about to open a brand new tiger exhibit here at Topeka Zoo in July. Wow. So I was a big part of, designing that new habitat and, all that process that goes with design and building and all that stuff. I've been a huge part of that. So our tiger program, obviously near and dear to my heart. So yeah, you met Thomas and he just turned 14. I don't know if you saw our social media. We did a Thomas the Train little birthday party for him. And he got his head in a box and he carried the box around on his head. It was freaking hilarious. Thomas is like this social media sensation because he also loves to get inside this tiny like water tub, and we called it Thomas in the tub. So if you Google or go to YouTube or TikTok and put Thomas in the tub, he went viral. He's just such a derp and he's so funny. So he's a geriatric tiger. So, geriatric animal care, John, is like one of my absolute favorite things. I'm super passionate. Everybody loves babies. Yay, let's have babies. Woo. But to really love and have the best quality animal care from birth to death is the best part of our job. And those last years, their golden years, are just so important. And so we really pride ourselves here at the Topeka Zoo with our geriatric animal care. So Thomas, he just turned 14. So he is older. We actually have the oldest lion in AZA accredited zoos here.
Wow.
She is about to turn 22 in like 3 weeks.
That's
so
amazing.
I know. And we have the second oldest llama in the world. And I know that for a fact because we applied to put her in the Guinness Book of World Records. So, and they were like, no, she's the second oldest. So, and I was like, dang it. So geriatric animal care is just really incredible here. So the things that we do to really prolong their life, make them comfortable, make them, as stress-free and as pain-free. So that is something that I'm super passionate about. So I could talk about our geriatric lioness for days. So she's my girl. I love her. So yeah, that's kind of a little snippet about what I do. And I am so blessed to be able to supervise an incredible team. I supervise a team of 8 keepers and they're just amazing, like just incredible people. I love all my keepers. It's so cheesy and it sounds so fake, but it's so true. Like I genuinely like the people that I supervise, which is so rare from what I hear. So yeah, we have a great team here.
Yeah, no, that's really awesome. I love that. And and this goes hand in hand with the fact that you work with carnivores, but you are known, like outside of the Topeka Zoo, you are known in AZA circles for being someone who is ridiculously good at and ridiculously focused on safety. That's a big thing. And
absolutely.
I have heard your name associated with safety, unrelated to like anything else. Like just like, oh my gosh, this is who you talk to about safety in the AZA.
That's like, it makes me want to cry. That's so touching.
Yeah. But I'm so curious why is that a thing? And can you talk a little bit? Because I even noticed that. I mean, Zoe and I talked about it because you took us back and we were, we got to hang out with Thomas and then we went back to their behind the scenes area and their holding area and stuff. And you were checking all the locks and you were all doing all the things. Yeah. And I will tell you, as somebody who goes behind the scenes all the time, I'm used to seeing that. Sure. But there was a intensity or a fervor maybe that you had that I don't often see. And I mean, people are careful. People are doubly careful because I am back there as an independent person, as media, whatever. But, you were just like locked in on the locks. So I'm curious where that stems from and all of that.
Yeah, no, thank you. First of all, you made me a little nervous whenever you said what I was known for. You kind of like took a while to get to that point, and I was like, son of a biscuit, what am I known for? I got a little nervous then. But yeah, so I mean, all jokes aside, unfortunately, the tipping point for me to become like this huge safety, crazy person that I am now was, in 2019, we had a tiger incident here at the Topeka Zoo, and you can Google it. It was international news, and it was like the worst month of my life. We had a keeper make a mistake and found herself in with our tiger at the time. And, thank God she was not killed. We got so lucky. We do train all of our animals on recalls here, and he came inside for one of our keepers who called him, and, he left her and came inside, and we were able to shut that door. And, the shoot team, our emergency response team had just shown up with our guns, and that tiger was literally about 5 seconds away from having to be shot and killed. Mm-hmm. So it was just, our keeper was maimed, and her life will never be the same because of it. And, that was our coworker and our friend. And it was just this nightmare that I had to go through, and that my team had to go through and my animals had to go through. And so I was just like, that moment after I saw because we lost like over 50% of our staff, because so many people saw it and experienced it, and nobody was ever the same.
Wow.
And so I vowed that as long as I am alive, I'm going to do everything in my power so no one ever has to experience that. And so I just went diving in head first to everything safety. And so that got me involved in the AZA safety committee. And so I applied to be a part of it, and I got in. They let me in. They chose me. I think they felt sorry for me. They're like, oh, that's the girl that just had something traumatic happen. Let's let her in, see what happens. But and I moved up the ranks, and I became chair eventually. And I ran the safety summit at the AZA midyear for 4 years, and, organized it and ran it. And just a huge part of my life, and a huge thing I could talk about all day, every day. So, the 2 key 2 lock system, I'm beyond passionate about. I think it should be a requirement. I think it should be, and I could get on my soapbox about this. I think it should be an AZA accreditation standard. And I'm really hoping that that's the direction that zoos are moving. It seems that that's the trend, and I'm very excited about that. But we need to get more people on board for this. We need to get more people, more safety conscience, and just really move forward to making sure keepers are safe, and not only keepers, guests too. Golly, we work with dangerous, it's like working with bombs every day that think and breathe and can hunt and can make decisions and can open doors. And so it's just, it's something that we are leading the way in here. But unfortunately it is because we had an incident. So I don't want people to have to go through what we went through. That's why we changed everything here and why we're so safety conscientious here. I don't want people to have to do that. Like, change all your crap before you go what we went through, Right. So, thank you for pointing that out and bringing that up. It's, call me, Instagram message me. I'll give anybody my cell phone number. You want to talk about safety? You want me to go to your zoo? I've traveled, all over helping people with, figuring out safety stuff. And it's just something I love to do, and I will help anybody, anytime, anywhere.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that about you too. You're always that way with anything. You're always like, contact me, reach out, whatever, to anyone, send people my way, whatever. Yeah.
Call me. Don't care. I love talking to people. I just think that this career field is just absolutely incredible. I think sometimes it gets a negative, I don't want to say reputation. That's not the right word. A lot of people talk negatively about it that leave the field. And I just want to make sure that we have a future, that we have a future with these animals, a big picture conservation, big picture education, with educating the public, and teaching people about these animals, and just making sure that we have this for the future. So there's just so many wheels involved in making sure this continues. And so I've just landed on safety and yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
Good question. Thanks for asking about that.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that I made you nervous, because I like that.
Nervous. I was like, oh golly, what is this?
Oh, you're known for many things, but we were talking about safety.
I know. I was like, what'd you hear?
But so that those are the things I wanted to talk about. Is there anything that you want to share about the Topeka Zoo or anything before we get to our final 2 questions?
Golly, good question. I don't think so. I think I hear a lot of people, and I wish I would have told, junior year high school Shanna, whenever you have these dreams of working at zoos and aquariums, and you think of San Diego, you think of SeaWorld, and you don't think of Topeka's, and it's just so I want to encourage people, when you're visiting zoos, when you're applying to zoos, when you're looking to do anything, don't forget about the small and the medium zoos. That's what I like to call us. Medium. We're medium. We're not small. We're not medium. We're medium. It's just we fill such an important niche in this career field in this country, and so I love working at a medium zoo. So just don't forget about us medium zoos. We're super important, and we fill a very important niche. So
yeah, no, it's funny.
That's all.
I love that. It's funny. When I started Rossifari, my goal was to, Cincinnati and San Diego and Columbus, and I've had them all on, and I love
They're
it.
Wonderful.
I'm going to be back doing interviews at a few of them soon, and I'm excited about that. But getting to feature places, whether it's Topeka or places like Brandywine, which is smaller than my water bottle, I think, or Elmwood Park Zoo, which is the other zoo in Philly, but is amazing.
Yes.
It's been a real treat. And I love when people reach out to me, and I've had it happen a lot where people are like, oh my gosh, I've never heard of that zoo, and now I'm going to go there. Because you say people don't go on a vacation to Topeka, but if they hear this, they might. Like the zoo crowd, zoo fans are crazy, and will travel to zoos, as you know, I've had people be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to finally travel to Philadelphia to go to Elmwood Park Zoo, and then while I'm there, I guess I'll check out the Liberty Bell, and I'm like, yes.
I love that, and you're right. People just forget about zoos like us and like Elmwood. I mean, I could name so many, So it's just, we fill this niche, and, not only like education wise, guest wise, community wise, but also career wise. Our internship here, we have a very successful internship, and we don't just hire people who have zoo experience. Most internships only hire people that have zoo experience. We don't. So, you have no experience. Come on down. Let's get you in this career field. Let's get you going. Let's get your feet wet. So just not only, hiring people that may have less experience, I love always talking about that, about the importance of smaller zoos. But yeah, like you said, the big zoos are amazing. I'm huge fans of them. So please don't be like, oh my gosh, that Topeka girl hates San Diego. I love San Diego. I love everything they do for conservation, Cincinnati, Dallas, Columbus, all those huge zoos are so great, so important. But yeah, don't forget about us little guys.
Absolutely. And then is there a conservation organization you'd like to give a shout out to?
We here at the Topeka Zoo are very actively involved in the black-footed ferret conservation out here. So that is something that this zoo is a huge thing with us. So our director, oh my goodness, I don't remember his title now. He just changed his title. So our director of conservation here at the Topeka Zoo, he's actually runs the black-footed ferret conservation program here in Kansas. Okay. So yeah, every year he goes out to Western Kansas, and they trap, tag, do all the things for the wild population here in Kansas. And the wild population of black-footed ferrets here in Kansas is super important because they are the only black-footed ferrets who have never tested positive for the plague, which is one of the top killers of the black-footed ferret population in the wild. So the population here in Kansas is super important, and it's important that they're studying these ferrets and why haven't they gotten the plague? What are we doing different over here? And so the black-footed ferret conservation here in Kansas and in Colorado and in Wyoming, all over this side of the country is so cool, so important, and it's not heard of a lot. So I think with you surprising me with that question, that was literally the first thing that popped into my head, was black-footed ferret.
I love that. That's so cool. And now it is time. It's time now, don't you know? We've come to the end of the show, but there's one tale left to go. You're gonna laugh and say, oh no. It's time for the Rossifari poop story.
So the killer whale, I don't know how much you know about killer whale poop, but it's kind of like it's like runny, right? Like it just kind of dissipates in the water. But then sometimes depending on, she had a little extra salmon or whatever, it would kind of float to the top. And so I was doing a show with her one time, and we were doing what we call slow water work. And so that's whenever you're just floating in the pool with her and you're doing kind of slower behaviors, like you're waving and then she waves and then you roll on your back and she rolls on her back, kind of like cute little cutie foo-foo ones. So she knows this behavior called a splash hula. So you take, like, I take water in my mouth, I spit it and I spin, and I gulp up water and I spit it, and then she gulps up water and spins. It's so cute. Everybody's like, oh. So I did not know that she had pooped because, I'm in the middle of a show and I'm like, look how cute we are. Yay. Because you're so focused on 9,000 things. And I just took a big mouthful of water and just spit it. And I could hear the trainers behind me just dying, laughing.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, what? Maybe they're laughing at something in the public. And I just keep going. And then I was just like, and then I go to get out with her and I look and I could just see the poop on the water. And I was like, yep, that just happened. So stupid. But, I was fine. I lived to tell the tale, and it's funny.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. Speaking of orcas, did you see that yesterday, as we're recording this, Follow announced that you can now get Follow bracelets for orcas, which are the bracelets that let you track animals and stuff.
We sell those here at the gift shop.
Yeah. They just released orcas, and I'm pretty excited about it. So
I had not heard that. That is such a cool little thing. I'm like, could I please be blinged out in the 80s? In the 80s, we wore those bracelets.
Yeah.
Can I please get all of mine all the way up my arm? And
honestly, so I'm a Follow ambassador through Rossifari, and also Safe Red Panda partnered with them to do Red Panda bracelets last year. So I am that guy. I usually only wear like 3 when I go out, but I have something like 20 some Follow bracelets, as does my wife, and we will just down the arms, and it's great.
Life goals.
Yes, absolutely. For sure. Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time.
You're welcome. Thank you. I always enjoy talking to you. So let me know if you're coming down here. Of course.
I will. Okay, well, there it is. I hope y'all enjoyed the little mid-interview sweetness there. And also, while I'm thinking about this, if you do like the discussion of motherhood and being in wildlife careers and stuff, don't forget that there is a podcast by my good friend Elizabeth Johnson called Mothering Wildlife that I actually produce for her. That is her talking to other moms in the zoo and wildlife field. And it, covers some career stuff, but it's also about being moms. And so if you enjoyed this episode, you would probably enjoy all of her episodes. So check that out and be back on Friday to check out Zoo News. Before we get going, I do want to say thank you to not only Shanna for hopping on, but to Aubrey and Hayden as well. That was very sweet and unexpected. And of course, I want to say thank you to all of my patrons, especially my Red Panda level patrons, including Dr. Laura Schenk, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, Jenny Owens, Melissa Reed, Carrie Kirkpatrick, John Lewis, who is also here for stickers, Kevin Williams, and Cormac McMuffin. Meow. And with all that said, I'll see y'all back here on Friday for Zoo News. But until then, remember, friends, the word credits backwards is Steiderk. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.